Hi there, it's a cold December morning and I'm here at Eastleigh Places Leisure Centre and I'm here for the Southampton Brick Festival. Now the show was due to open at 11, but I'd got what's called an early bird ticket, so I could get in at 10 o'clock, and people were still setting up, but on the queuing side of the hall, it was completely empty, apart from there were 9 people in front of me who'd also got there early, about 9:30. At about 10 to 10, a person came round with a huge bag of freebies for all the people who were already there, and it was a Ninjago minifigure twin pack. By 5 to 10, quite a few more people had joined the queue in this side of the hall, and then on the dot of 10 o'clock, they let us in. Now I always go looking for good bargains, but quite often it's at the expense of seeing the great displays that are on show. So at this brick festival I was determined to make sure I looked at all the mocks that were being shown, and there were some really good ones. And the first one I came across which I really liked was Peter Goodwin's Railway, and he'd made modern upscaled versions of the 1980s intercity passenger train and also of the 1990s Metroliner train. He'd also remade and expanded the 1990s train station, which came in both red and yellow in a more traditional tan colour. He also had a static display of a really nicely built London Underground tube train with station, and it inspired me to get out my own train and station, which I built a few years ago, and give it a few upgrades, so I think I'm going to work on that fairly soon. Near to Peter was another train display simply called Christmas Trains, which had a really nice modern high-speed train built in dark green, and that had been built at 6 studs wide regular city scale, and running around inside that was a version of Lego's own Winter Village train with a very rapidly spinning Christmas tree on one of the trucks. Now, with me being a big fan of Lego Classic Castle, the next display I found which I really liked was Castle of the Knights. And this was an epic castle built by Darren Nicholson. Now, chatting with him, he was telling me how this started off as a fairly small project, but each part he's rebuilt and expanded many times over. There's a huge white cathedral in the middle of the castle, and also, unusually, it wasn't based on minifig scale. He had lots of model figures dotted around the castle, which were based on the model railway scale of 00 or HO. This meant his scale was slightly smaller, and I imagine it has saved him an awful lot of bricks. Another epic castle build was the Lion's Den by Jordan Griffith. Now this one was built at more traditional minifig scale, and at one end he had the Lion Knights castle from 2022 which he'd modified, which then continued across the drawbridge into a more village scene which had dozens and dozens of minifigures giving a huge amount of detail with lots of different scenes going on. The buildings in the middle were his own creation, and then right down at the other end he had a modified medieval town square set. And I really liked this one because he had clearly spent so much time on all the details and the scenes with all the minifigures. Tony Miller had never been to a show before, and he had a huge display of cranes. The first few were some classic sets that he'd bought. Then he had the blue Lego City mobile crane from 2022, and a bigger modified version built from 2 sets, and a gigantic version built from 3 sets. He'd made a nice little scene where an excavator had uncovered a minifig skeleton, and then at the other end he had his own creation, which was an absolutely mammoth crane, which I think must have been at least 2 meters tall. Now I'm a little bit of a Doctor Who fan, and I've got both the Doctor Who sets which Lego have made, but there was a really nice display of Doctor Who brickheads made by Amy Rodger. And she made all the Doctors and their companions all the way up to the 6th Doctor, which is where Doctor Who finished until it made its comeback in the early 2000s. Let's Off-Road, which was built by design and not default, which is a shop I quite often buy parts from, is a great display based on the Landro Classic Defender set from 2023. They've rebuilt the set in a whole host of different colours, so first of all they've got white and then dark grey. And then going up the bridge we've got black and tan on the top. Underneath there's a fantastic rainbow version going through the river. And then down the other side we've got a classic sand green version. There was a second Doctor Who display completely separate from the Brickheads version, which started with one of the opening scenes from the first Doctor back in the 1960s. He had made many scenes from many different eras of Doctor Who, and also recreated all the different Doctors in minifigure form. All his TARDISes were slightly different and screen accurate to the era they came from. This one is a model of the Brigadier's office from the 1970s when the Doctor was Earth-based. Of all his Doctors, 2 of them were the official Lego minifigures, but all the others had been custom made. He'd built a huge selection of consoles from the many different iterations of the TARDIS. He'd even built a scene from the underrated Doctor Who Millennium film. He'd built a huge TARDIS interior, which he'd lit up really nicely with a lot of LEDs. but my favourite was a scene from the episode called The Girl in the Fireplace, where David Tennant as the Doctor rides on the back of a white horse through a time portal from the spaceship into the Palace of Versailles, which had been taken over by robotic aristocrats. So even though I did spend most of my time looking at all the fantastic displays at this book festival, I obviously couldn't come away without getting a few little bargains. And the first is the Disney Up House. Now I do already have this set, but I want to modularise this and enclose it so it's no longer open backed. And I thought the easiest way to do that is to get a second set. However, it's still on sale at full price for £50 in the Lego shops, and there were several people selling it for regular retail price at this show. However, this one was only £27, which is only just over half price. So I can use all the parts I need to modify the house, then any parts left over can go into my stores, and I can always sell on the 3 minifigures. Now I have absolutely 0 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle sets, but at some point I would like to have all the minifigures. And I saw this Shredder polybag which was reasonably priced, so I thought I'd get my first Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles minifig, who's not actually a turtle. Next I got a bunch of printed tiles. Now the seller I bought these from told me he'd recently been to the huge Lego factory shop out in Germany, and he'd bought some fairly obscure printed pieces at bargain prices and was selling them on. So first of all, I got several bags of these 2x4 dark grey tiles with the white stripe printed on them. Now these are the ones that get used as white lines in the middle of the Lego road plates. And I've currently got far more road plates than I have white lines, so I thought I'd stock up on them while I had the chance. Next is a bag of these 1x2 transparent light blue tiles with the koi carp printed on them. Now these tiles have been used in several sets recently, but they still are a quite high price on Bricklink, so I thought a little bag of these for only £1, I thought I'd grab one of those. Then lastly I got 3 of these Lego logo tiles, and they're yellow 4x4 printed tiles with the logo on them, and these came in the new yellow Lego delivery truck. Now only 2 of them came in each set, and as the set is quite large and expensive, these are still holding quite a high price on Bricklink, so I thought I'd grab a few of those while I could. Now there weren't that many people selling vintage sets at reasonable prices at this show, but I did find this one buried amongst a whole load of Star Wars sets, and it's 6042 and it was called Dungeon Hunters. Now because this was in a clear bag, I could see that all the pieces were still really good quality, none of them had faded at all, but most importantly all the minifigures were still in immaculate condition with no scratches on their torsos at all. Now this set has obviously been very well looked after. Both the horses are still in perfect condition, the forestman has still got his tiny red feather in his hat, and even the 2 spare plumes that came in the set are also in here. The Lion Knight's torso is still perfect, and for a set that is 35 years old, this is in amazing condition, so I'm really pleased to get hold of it. And even its instruction sheet is still beautifully flat with no tears or creases. So not a huge haul from this Lego show, just a few bits and bobs that I found at good prices. But it's definitely good fun spending more time than normal actually looking at all the amazing displays of people's work. Please leave your comments below, especially if you were at the show, and let me know if you got anything yourself. If you've liked this video, please do give it a thumbs up, it really helps me out. And of course, please subscribe for more Lego videos.